Good morning, everybody. Give us just a minute. Okay, so there's that chat. Got it. Yeah, I don't need to see this, so that's fine. Perfect. Are we on? Okay, actually, you deleted it. It was good. What I meant is I don't need to see myself. Yeah. So put it back up there. Yeah, perfect. Perfect. All right. Are we live? Okay. All right. Welcome, everybody. This meeting is being recorded. Now, since I can't spell the word technology, just bear with me here. Let me turn that off so I don't screw it up. So, welcome. It's a beautiful Saturday here in Miami. Actually, I'm lying. It's cold as hell. It's like I didn't move down here for this. It's like 50 freaking degrees here. 46 this morning. No, no. I moved from Denver, so I didn't have to put up with this cold. But listen, I'm bitching, and I'm sure you guys are. Some of you are up in 0-degree weather. But anyway, welcome. What do we title this today? How it takes to actually win in multifamily. And we're going to go through some really deep stuff today. I'm going to probably go for upwards of 3 hours and really dig deep on this business. So let me start by asking you a question. What would it mean if you and your family, if you brought in income every single month, whether you're working or not? See, that's what you get from multifamily. What's one of the most proven, predictable wealth building vehicles that there is. And I'm sure that's why you're here. It creates income today and you're building generational wealth literally for decades. So what I want to do is I want to talk about, we'll start with the good stuff, okay, which is how you make money in freaking multifamily. So let's get into it, okay? The first thing is obviously cash flow. That's the reason the name of my podcast is Lifetime Cash Flow. Now, there's a reason 90% of the world's millionaires either made their money in real estate or made their money elsewhere and invested in real estate. Literally 90%, okay? That's what we call a clue, okay? So cash flow is certainly one reason. Number two is taxes. The depreciation that's available and other tax benefits are extraordinary. Trump just brought back in 100% bonus depreciation. So you're literally able to write off upwards of 70% of your investment year one. I mean, it's extraordinary what's available in real estate. I don't know if you've seen the cryptocurrency meltdown that's happened. I think it's coming back up now, but you don't have those benefits with things like cryptocurrency, the stock market, things like that. The tax benefits aren't there. That's one of the biggest benefits of real estate. The next thing is appreciation. And the beautiful thing that I'm going to teach you today is you can force that appreciation. Okay, it's the value of your property going up. So you're able to force that appreciation, and I'm going to teach you how. There's incredible ways to force it. Significantly force it. I'll give you one example right now. See, the way that commercial real estate is valued is based on a multiple of the net income. It's called the NOI, the net operating income, okay? NOI, and I'm going to go into this again, but just give you a little teaser, a little taste, okay? I'll give you an example. This is one I use regularly. I've got a 296 unit asset in San Antonio. We call them assets, apartment complex. And by the way, you need to learn the verbiage. That's super important. You need to learn the nomenclature, okay? But 296 units, and we painted numbers on the parking spaces, and we asked the tenants, told the tenants, hey, it's first come, first serve. You can reserve your parking space in front of your unit. It's $25 a month, okay? Now I'm going a little fast here just because I'm going a little deeper on this than I plan to right now. But so we had, it's $25, right? We had 100 people take it, 100 people. So what you do is you annualize it. That's 2,500 for the month, 30K for the year. At that time, that property was valued at a 4% cap rate. Divide 30,000 by 4%. Here's what you get, 750K. So that paint on that parking lot raised the value of that property 750 freaking $1,000, okay? And we didn't even pay for the paint. We had a towing company pay for the paint because they wanted the towing contract. That's why we love this business, okay? So that's forcing appreciation. That's just one. I'm going to give you numerous examples of that, but it's incredible what you're able to do in this business. So again, the first thing is cash flow. That's why my podcast is called Lifetime Cash Flow. And I'll brag for a minute. I'm blessed to host the largest real estate podcast really in the world now for commercial real estate. And it's because it's about cash flow. And then the tax benefits, and then this forced appreciation. All right. Now, the next big thing is you get principal reduction. This is the thing you forget about, over years. You forget that you're paying your loan down. But let me rephrase that. You're not paying it down. Your tenants are paying it down, right? So you get principal reduction. You also, when you purchase, you get what's called an acquisition fee. Acquisition fee. And this is for putting the deal together. And that fee is typically 3 to 5%, okay? So let me just share something with you. A small multifamily deal is about $3 million. At 5%, that's 150K, okay? I'm going to tell you, one acquisition fee can be life-changing. And I don't say that lightly. I've seen my students do it. I have a coaching program they call my Warriors. They now own 300,000 units under my tutelage. I'm going to have one come on in a little bit. We're going to dissect a deal with you. But, they've made tens of millions of dollars in acquisition fees, raised hundreds of millions of dollars. But the point is, one acquisition fee can change your life, okay? And people expect you to charge it, okay? Another thing is called asset management fees. Now, when you give a property to a property management company, asset management fee. When you give a property to a property management company, you still have to manage them, okay? And you can charge the investors in the group an asset management fee. We typically charge 2%, and it's 2% of the collected rents, okay? So what do I mean by that? If you're collecting $100,000 a month in rents, then it's 2% of that, whatever it is. But the point is, it's expected, okay? Investors expect you to collect that. Now, what I'm talking about here, guys, is you putting a deal together where you're bringing money in. And I'm going to talk about raising money today in a big way because that's a big piece of this. These deals take money, but it doesn't have to be your own money. And so you can raise the money for these deals. And when you pull groups of investors together, you can do it in a joint venture or you can do it in a syndication. I'm going to teach you both those today. And you charge an acquisition fee, you charge asset management fees. Now, if you decide to manage yourself, you can charge property management fees. Now, I'm not going to go deep on how to property manage today. I do that in my boot camps. But the point is, these are all the different fees, all the different ways you can make money. So to recap, you've got cash flow, which is extraordinary, that literally goes on forever. I mean, it's for your kids, their kids, and their kids, right? You've got depreciation and tax benefits, which are extraordinary. You can do the Burr method, right? What's the Burr method? You've probably heard that on Bigger Pockets if you listen to them. But it's buy, renovate, refi, and then just do it over again, repeat, right? That's the Burr method, okay? And so you could do that with apartment complexes. That's our model. We'll buy an apartment complex, we'll increase the value through our efforts where we do that, what we call a value add methodology, where we're fixing it up, we're increasing the rents, we're lowering the expenses. We raise the value, we refinance it, give our investors all or most of their money back, and then we just do it again, and the investors stay in the deal. And then the returns are infinity. We're going to talk about returns today as well. So this is why we like this business, or love this business rather. So that's how you make money in this business, is cash flow, tax benefits, that forced appreciation, principal reduction, acquisition fees, asset management fees, and property management fees. Now, as it relates to taxes, your biggest expense living in the United States is taxes. And, with that Burr method that I just shared with you, you're not paying taxes on the money you pull out of that property. You don't pay taxes on money that you refinance. You don't pay taxes until you sell. And if you never sell, you'll never pay the tax. Okay? Which, it makes this business extraordinary. So, in that Burr method, buy, renovate, refinance. When you refinance and pull that money out, pay yourself and your investors back, it's not a taxable event, which is fantastic. Here's the thing. Most people, when they pass, they leave bills and expenses behind. Multifamily investors leave income behind, okay? That's why we love this freaking business. And by the way, don't hesitate to throw questions. Hey, Sarah, good to see you. Don't hesitate to throw questions. In fact, take a minute and tell me where you're from, if you would, please. Take a minute, tell me where you're from. Like to see who's here. And if you've got any questions that you'd like me to maybe drill down on a little bit in this business today, whether it's raising money, whether it's finding deals, whether it's putting a team together, we're going to talk about that next, actually, building a team. If you've got questions, feel free to ask. And if you let me know where you're from. What do you got?
We got a question from Jake on Instagram.
Jake. Okay, Jake on Instagram.
Hey, Rod, is there an audiobook for a guide to syndications?
I don't know about an audiobook for a guide to syndications. I've got a book in my link tree around syndications. It's not audio, however. It's a very thick, free PDF book. So if you go to rodslinks.com, there's a book. I don't know if I've got a copy of it here, but I've got a book on syndications. I'll take a quick look and see if I have it here. I've got a stack of books behind me that I'm going to go through. Some of these I'm going to go through today, but I know I've got one on syndications, and it's in that link tree. Yeah, here it is, Guide to Multifamily Syndications. Okay, you can see it's not a thin book, but you're going to want to read it anyway, Jake, because there's a offering memorandum in there, a private placement memorandum for doing a syndication, and there's some things you're actually going to want to read, not hear. Another question?
We got Solomon.
Solomon?
I am wondering about family offices and giving bridge loans.
Okay, so Solomon, you're wondering about family offices and giving bridge loans? Well, certainly, I don't know about family offices giving bridge loans. I'm sure they do, but really, you'll find private equity and banks giving bridge loans. Now, family offices are a great source for money. However, you're going to need some experience for sure. And different family offices. By the way, if you don't know what a family office is, you get a wealthy individual or wealthy family. They literally create their own office to handle their money, okay, and their investments and security and insurance and protection and things like that. So, and I've had the head of the Family Office Club, which is probably the largest organization for that, on my podcast. I've had him speak to my mastermind, and so yeah. They are a source for money, but they are going to require some experience. They're very sophisticated, and some of them are specific to different asset classes. Like some will do multifamily, some will do other types of assets like retail, like shopping centers, like land. Some of them are doing build to rent home things like that. Let's see, you got William from Austin, Nicholas from Chicago. It looks like Bird from Tampa. You're right up the street from me. Kelvin, Atlanta. Chris from Florence, Kentucky. Welcome, guys. Okay. And feel free to ask me questions, okay, throughout this thing. I have no problem with that. I enjoy the questions. You got another one? Okay.
Seymour.
So, who is it?
Seymour.
Seymour? Uh-huh.
Is there room in this business in New Jersey?
Is there room in this business in New Jersey? Hell yeah, there's room in any state. I would tell you though, okay, I hate to go political this quick, but blue states have a lot of regulations. They have a lot of taxation. They have rent controls that are ridiculous. It can sometimes take 9 months to get a tenant out. So if I lived in New York, New Jersey, California, possibly even Illinois, I would be looking in other states personally. I won't invest in a blue state. It's too much brain damage. Now, can you make money in New Jersey? Absolutely. There are deals there. Absolutely. Just understand the landlord-tenant laws so you don't get caught in a lurch. Because if you're making a mortgage payment, you can't get somebody out for 9 months that's not paying. That freaking hurts. So just be careful is all I want to say there. Is that it?
Thomas asked us, how much
Tom,
is it to join your warrior program?
Thomas asks how much to join the Warrior program. The way to apply to the Warrior program is you text the word crush to 72345, and there's a couple of different options there, and I don't want to get into that right now, but that's what you do. You text crush to 72345. My Warriors now own, I believe, around 300,000 multifamily units under my tutelage, something I'm incredibly proud of, and tons of senior housing, which is something I'm into now as well. I bought my first assisted living facility, and I teach that in the Warrior program now. In fact, I teach every asset class, not just multifamily. I teach senior housing, mobile home parks, self-storage, industrial flex space, and each one of those assets, my Warriors have tons of. So, but get on a call. Get on a call. That's how you apply. If you're interested, we check you out, you check us out. If it's a fit, you're off to the freaking races. And even if it's not a fit, I promise you'll leave the call better than you got on it. We good? We're good. Okay. So now let's talk about building a team. Did I miss anything? Okay, hold on. Let me I got a couple questions here. I believe the opportunities here are hot. Thousands of moving to ATL. I agreed. I like Atlanta. Now, there are parts of Atlanta you need to be careful in, Mark. I've had some bad experiences in Atlanta, so be careful. In the C to C minus assets, that demographic, there's A, B, C, and D. We're going to talk about that in a minute. I'm getting ahead of myself. But on the, the tougher demographic, the older properties, those people are living hand to mouth, paycheck to paycheck, and there's a lot of delinquency and problems with that. So just keep that in mind, Mark. So you want to be careful what type of assets you get. Okay, Bird, you're wondering we can do lunch? Just talk to my team, brother. That's the best way. You're in Tampa. You come down. I'm happy to have lunch with you. Okay. All right. So this business is a team sport. Okay. You're going to hear that a lot. Okay. Now, I have purchased 2,000 houses by myself, but I would not even consider buying an apartment complex by myself. Okay. And it is a team sport. It's a relationship driven business. It's not only impossible to do it alone, it's unnecessary. Okay. You're going to build relationships, and I'm going to give you some tools and tips for how to do that carefully, because a partnership, like a marriage, is easy to get into and hard to get out of. Ask me how I know. Now, at my boot camps, very often I'll say, don't do that. Ask me how I know. One of my warriors, one of my coaches, we call them my warriors, that's my coaching students. One of my warriors got me a shirt that says hashtag ask me how I know. Now we give it away there just because it's funny. But anyway, so you want to be careful when you get into a relationship in this business. I'm not, you can't avoid it. You want it because, again, it's a team sport, but you still got to check people out. Okay. And so, let me share something with you. I send people to my link tree. Let's see. I've got all these free books there, but I've got one. Here you go. Questions to ask when forming a partnership. Okay. Because, again, easy to get into, hard to get out of. You want to ask all the hard questions up front. And I tell my new warriors this as well. Don't get so excited that you get into a deal without doing your homework. And, there's all sorts of questions you got to ask that might be a little uncomfortable. What happens if one of us dies? What happens if we get in a disagreement? And on and on and on. And so, ask the hard questions up front, and it avoids the pain later. I'm in a high dollar partnership dissolution right now. The guy's a complete piece of shit and stole money and stuff, but and I teach this stuff, and he got past me. Okay, so then again, I'm cautioning you to be careful as you get into this business. You got a question?
You got one from Solomon?
Solomon again? Mm-hmm.
Family office wants to give me a bridge loan on a $300 million deal with a $220 million of transferable debt for the remaining $8 billion.
Okay, Solomon, that question is too detailed for me to answer in front of this whole group. I don't think it'll serve the group. I will either find it, or you can DM me, and I'll deal with that separately if you don't mind, please. I don't want to tie up this time for that, respectfully. Okay, so here's the thing. Most people rely on a job or a retirement account or the stock market that rises and falls. Crypto, my God, it's been crazy these last few days. But all that stuff rises and falls with the economy, right? And this isn't just about making money, it's about having choices, right? And so This is why we love multifamily. Now, when you're building your team, you're going to need relationships with potential investors. Okay, because these deals take money, but it doesn't have to be your own money. My students have raised hundreds of millions. I have. You can do it. I know that sounds crazy and intimidating and like, holy shit, that's a lot of money, but you can do it. And it's much easier than you think it is. Okay, it's building relationships and it's adding value. Now, you've got to have some competence, okay, so that you're congruent. See, it starts with competence. Hang on. Competence, meaning learn it, right? Which then equates to confidence. And then you're congruent when you talk to people. Okay, and they respect it. They respect and trust you. But that's the sequence. You got to learn it first. I've got a boot camp. I'll tell you guys how you can come for literally $47 here in a little bit, and the bonuses are like 10 grand. It's virtual. You can do it at home in your underwear, so there's no excuse. If you want to learn this, I'm going to give you the resource to do that. But it absolutely starts there. You got to learn it. And you're not going to do every piece of this business. That's why it's a team sport. That's why it's so important. You're going to focus on what you're good at. Those are the teams, those are the matches made in heaven. If you're analytical, you're the person that underwrites the deals. If you're outgoing and the mouthpiece like Rod, you build the relationships with sellers, investors, brokers, things like that. If you're process driven, maybe you've got some construction experience, some management experience, some project management experience, you do the asset management after you buy it. So lots of different hats you can wear in this business. But you want to play to your strengths. We'll talk about that more. But you're going to need to build relationships with sellers, with investors, with bankers and lenders and brokers, real estate brokers, service providers like, painters, plumbers, electricians, drywallers, so on and so forth, insurance agents, property management companies. And so these are all your internal and external team. And I know that sounds like a lot. How to eat a whale? One freaking bite at a time, and you don't have to be an expert at all of it. That's the beautiful thing. You play to your strengths and you hire, align, or partner for your weaknesses. So tell me again in the chat what you'd really like to learn from me today. I got some questions, but I didn't get any requests for what you'd like to learn. So if you would tell me what you'd like to learn, I'd love that. Okay, raising money, got it. I will absolutely be teaching that. Just bear with me on that. Where to buy the states? Okay, we'll drill down on that too. If you guys have any questions, feel free to fire them up. Finding opportunities to analyze. Okay, you got it, Nicholas. I'm definitely going to get into that today. Anything else, guys? Just let me know. Okay. Yeah. So how to start as a newbie? Well, Daniel, get your ass to my boot camp, okay? I mean, it's $47 freaking dollars, and hell, the bonuses are insane. So that's how you start, okay? Finish watching this with me. Start listening to my podcast. That's how you get going. How to underwrite? That takes a little time, Patrick, and I'm not going to drill down on that today. I do it at my boot camp for sure. And again, I do it for $47, so there's no excuses, okay? And I'll tell you how to get there. What do you remember what the link is? I can just mention it now. I keep forgetting what it is. No, you don't have it. Okay, don't worry about it. Anyway, I'll get it to you. Okay, but Patrick, as part of my boot camp pricing, you get my underwriting software. Okay.
Rodsbonuses.com.
Okay. If you want to sign up for the boot camp early, it's Rod's Bonuses, and the bonuses are incredible.com. Okay. I mean, I was going to talk about it later, but I'm answering the question here, so I did that. Okay. Let's see, Mark, JV mechanics. I'm going to talk about joint venture mechanics and what you can and can't do, underwriting, market analysis, advantage of being in a community, where to get started. Okay, Mark, I'm going to go through a lot of this stuff. The only one that I'm not going to go crazy on, well, two of them I'm not going to go crazy on, Mark, is the market analysis and the underwriting. I'm going to tell you what markets to select first. and what to look for in those markets, but I'm not going deep, okay? I'm not going to go deep on the underwriting. I'm going to do some basics there today as well. But again, that's my boot camp, man. Get to my boot camp. It's $47. The bonuses will blow your mind. Literally will blow your mind. In fact, I'll tell you right now what they are. You get my Finding Deals course, Ultimate Deal Finder system. You get my document library, the contracts and templates vault. You get my goal setting workshop, accelerator. You get my capital raising system. I'm missing some. Oh, they're on the back. You get my no money down acquisition system. You get my weekly planning, momentum weekly planning system. You get my deal analyzer software. You get my content domination course, my social media domination course. I mean, all of that you get for 47 freaking dollars and the ticket for my 2-day boot camp where I don't sell anything. Tell me your excuse, okay? All right. Levi, you want to start with a duplex. What do you need to know before you buy it? Again, come to my boot camp, brother. For $47, I could save you thousands in mistakes. Okay, seriously. But you need real quickly. You need to understand the market dynamics. You need to know what your what your comparable rents are. I'm going to tell you. We're going to talk about small multifamily versus large multifamily in just a minute, Levi. So stay with me, okay? You're going to learn a lot when I go through that. Okay. Clean all. So, when you are building a relationship with a potential team member, still on team here, okay? First thing is you got to build rapport. And women are great at this, men not as much, but rapport is you find commonality. Women are like, oh, I love your top, I love your shoes, I love your jeans. Men can't say that, okay? But men can say, I love those Broncos. What do you think about the Broncos or whatever? But you find commonality, you build rapport, and you get to a point where they trust and respect you. That you want them to say, I like this person. Because people will only do business with people they like, right? But that's, I know this is common sense stuff, but that's how you build a successful relationship and find team members, So that's what you do. And I will tell you, I get asked, how am I going to find people on the team? And obviously, a community like my Warrior program is extraordinary for that because they've dozens and dozens of successful teams, but you can do it in your backyard too. Go to your local real estate investor association meeting or a meetup group or whatever and meet people that are doing this. You want to get around people that are doing this. Why? Because a rising tide lifts all ships, okay? There's so many people have naysayers in their lives, people that are afraid of their dreams. Oh yeah, that sounds great for you. Good luck with that. That person, okay? And they'll squash your dreams. And sometimes it's family. And I'm going to tell you, love your family, but proactively choose who you allow to influence you, right? Super important. And remember this about multifamily. When you invest in multifamily, you're tapping into multiple income streams under one roof. And that creates stability, true stability. The single family homes and traditional investments just don't match. Like I've owned 2,000 houses. I'll tell you a little painful story. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but I've owned 2,000 houses that I've rented long term, and I will never own another single family house unless it's a third, fourth, fifth house for me, period. I won't own another rental because in 2008, it was my 800 houses that pulled me down. I had 800 houses and I had several apartment complexes. The houses pulled me down. People ask why. And by the way, I get hate all the time. Well, you were over leveraged online. No, I wasn't. I owed 30 cents on the dollar and I still crashed and burned. Here's why. Most of my houses were C-class houses. So there's A, B, C, and D, right? A's brand new. D's the hood. Stay the hell out of the hood. Okay. Ask me how I know. We'll talk about that more later. But these were C houses, older properties, tougher demographic, tougher renters, lots of maintenance. And I had houses from 2 hours north of me to 2 hours south of me and everywhere in between. So logistically challenging as well. And see, at my apartment complexes, if I sent someone to fix a maintenance thing, we could stockpile parts, plumbing parts, electrical parts, drywall, not drywall, locks, window locks, door locks, you name it, appliance parts, and they could be in and out in an hour, a maintenance guy. Well, if I had to send them to a house that's an hour away, they have to go see what's wrong. Then they have to go find a Home Depot or a Lowe's where we have an account. And I don't know about you, when Rod's happy ass tries to fix something, he ends up going to Home Depot more than once, okay? So, same thing with maintenance guys. And so what took an hour at one of my apartment complexes took all day at one of my 800 C-class houses. And so the maintenance really wiped out the cash flow. The last thing is I didn't pay attention to tenant demographics back then. If they had good credit and they had a job and they paid a deposit, they could rent from me. Well, a lot of my tenants were contractors, drywallers, electricians, plumbers, roofers, painters, and that work fell off a cliff in 2009. So they didn't have work. So it imploded. And I pay attention to tenant demographics now, you know. I call them seminars. That was a $50 million seminar. I lost $50 million in 2008 and 9. And but there's the lesson. And what I realized was my apartments did just fine through that crash. If I hadn't cross-collateralized them with packages of houses, I still own those apartments. So, you know, I want you to learn from my mistakes, okay? And, you know, the multifamily, it pulled back about 11%, but it survived, which is why I started my podcast, just to say, hey, if you're going to buy and hold real estate, for God's sakes, do multifamily, don't do single family. Ask me how I know, right? And so, you know, and it's kind of funny, when I started my podcast, I would say, you know, I'm never going to sell you anything. I just want to add value. And that was the truth. I just wanted to explain what happened to people. And now I'm a liar because I freaking sell everything, but I never planned to. You know, you want to make God laugh, you tell him your plans, right? Anyway, so back to partnerships and multifamily. You know, the advantages of creating a partnership are you can divide up the responsibilities, you know, and you can combine an analytical person with an outgoing person like me. I used to think I was the introvert, but I'm not. I'm obviously an extrovert. But the analytical is typically introverted. The outgoing person is typically extroverted. You put those two together, that's a freaking match made in heaven, okay? That's the most successful partnership groups I've ever seen, okay? And, you know, and everybody can reach out to partners for equity, right? They can, you know, the strength in numbers to help you raise the money. But remember this, multifamily gives you safety from empty units, which my houses didn't do. You have a house and it's vacant, you're 100% vacant, okay? And you know, because with multifamily, you've got other units paying your expenses, paying your rents. You know, and of course, rents rise with inflation. Listen, inflation is terrible right now, and I don't think it's going to slow down. But here's the beautiful thing about real estate. When you buy real estate, your debt is locked, okay? It doesn't go up, okay? But the value of the property can go up, okay? Because the rents are going up. And again, the value is based on the net operating income, the NOI. Any increase to this NOI is an exponential increase to the value. Okay, I'll give you another extreme example. You got to remind me to get those pictures of the tornado damage. I forgot all about that. So I've got this asset. We just sold it actually a couple months ago in a suburb of Dayton, Ohio. It's called Beaver Creek, wealthy suburb. 101 units. Okay, 101 units. It got hit by a tornado a few months after I bought it, okay? And I mean, it got freaking destroyed. It was kind of crazy. I drove up there the next day. I mean, I flew up the next day, and I'm driving down the street, and I'm like, there's no damage. There's no damage. I get to my complex, I'm like, holy crap. It bounced, hit the complex and bounced again. And there was a woman pulling stuff. All 101 families had to move because they shut off the water, they shut off the electrical, and there was a woman that was bringing her clothes out, and I said, were you here when it happened? And I have a picture of it actually. And she said, yeah, my son was sleeping up in his bedroom, and thank God his phone went off with the early warning system, because by the time he got down and woke me up, his bedroom was gone. And you look up, all you see is a freaking tub. His whole bedroom was freaking gone. You know, thankfully, nobody got killed. 2 people had to have surgery. They're okay, and no kids got hurt, thank God. But the point is, here's the moral of the story. Okay, 101 units. We got $600 rent bumps. Okay, 600 because we rebuilt it, right? That was a $10 to $12 million increase in value in 101 units. Yeah, baby. That's why we love this business. Okay. And that's just another example. That's an extreme example, obviously, but that's why we love this business, because, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. When you're doing, I'm still with partnership. I keep digressing, and at my boot camps, I do this too. God, if I get a question, sometimes my brain will fall out on the floor and I'll be off on a tangent for a while. So forgive me for that. But I'm back to partners and team building, right? You know, like I said, A partnership's like a marriage. Use the book. It's in rodslinks.com. Okay, use that book before you get into a partnership, because you can't fire them. Okay, ask the right questions. And by the way, you want complementary skill sets. You don't want two bulls in the china closet. Okay, no two type A's. You want an outgoing with an introvert. That's the best combination. You don't want to be alike. You want to explore their past work ethic, right? You want to have the tough conversations up front. What happens if somebody dies, God forbid, or gets sick, or whatever? What do you do? How do you deal with the disagreement? Super important that you ask those questions. And how are decisions going to be handled? Are there going to be any salaries? I mean, these are the kinds of things you want to ask. Now, let me tell you one really important thing. And you're going to think this isn't important. It's probably the most important when you're picking a partner. Trust your freaking gut, okay? Your gut, your brain is so powerful. It can pick up on micro nuances that you're not consciously aware of, okay? And, if something doesn't feel right, trust it, okay? Anytime I've ignored my gut, I've regretted it every single time. Now, women are better at this than men. It's intuition, basically. But there was even a book about this called Blink, where a great example of it is an art expert can look at a painting and they know it's a fraud, but they don't know why they know it's a fraud. Your brain is the same way. It can pick up on if somebody's off, and trust it. Every time I've ignored it, I've regretted it, okay? All right, but anyway, like I said, you've got to learn this real estate game. When you sign up for my boot camp, in the back is a glossary with all the words you've got to learn, okay? You need to learn them. Things like NOI and net operating income, cash on cash return, cap rate, and on and on. There's so many. I'm not going to sit here and go through them all. But the point is, this is not hard to do. It's much easier than things like coding and things like that. So don't be intimidated by this. You just got to learn it, bottom line. So now let's talk about finding money to buy your deals. I don't know if I've had any questions. Okay, not yet. Good. Let's talk about finding the money to buy your deals, okay? Because I'm going to tell you, again, you need money to buy these deals, but it doesn't have to be your own money. There's so much money looking for a home, okay? And again, my students, my warriors have raised hundreds of millions, so have I, and you can too. You're not going to raise it all at once, but I will tell you something. If you get into this business and you build your Rolodex, or you build, one of the things in my bootcamp bonuses is how to crush it in social media. You go to social media, start building a following where you can raise money. You go to anybody that does these deals and you tell them, hey, can I get in on a deal if I bring money to it? By God, you're in like that with me as well, candidly. Okay, so this is something you absolutely want to try to own, and you may be surprised how many people that have money. Okay, you don't necessarily have to be a professional athlete or in the medical field, or we get a lot of money in the IT field. It doesn't mean business owners. There's so many different places. I can tell you, I raised money from numerous sources. I even ran an ad once in Craigslist and found this old woman that loaned me millions of dollars. I was a member of a health club in Denver. It was kind of a cool club where we had our own lockers with little brass nameplates on them. And the guy next to me and I did millions of dollars worth of deals together. The soccer field, whatever. There's so many different places you could meet money. We'll talk about this more, but what I want to do is there's different ways to raise money, and I want to talk about that now. So there's joint ventures, okay? And there's syndication, but we're going to talk about joint ventures first. So a joint venture is everybody has to be involved, okay? You cannot just get money from somebody and give them a return. They have to be involved. So I'm going to call bullshit if I see more than 5 or 6 people in a JV. We call them JVs, okay? In a JV. If I see more than 5 or 6 people, I'm going to call BS because there's no way they're all doing something, okay? So don't play with that, okay? But I can tell you, my students have done tons of deals like this. And by the way, you can find somebody that's got money that doesn't have time to work this thing, but they'll put the money in, maybe they'll sign on the debt, maybe they'll have some decision making. And I've had students that have literally bought multi-million or $1 million deals with none of their own money. The JV puts the money in, they have a split of some sort, maybe the partner gets a return on their money before the split. There's lots of ways to structure these things. And it's a fantastic, by the way, when I was in my 20s, I did millions of dollars worth of JV deals where the partners put up the money. I found the deal, I fixed it, I managed it. We split them 50-50. They signed on the debt. Because they signed on to the debt, they were active. But I also, if I spent more than a certain amount of money, I had to get their approval, which makes them active. So that's a joint venture. That everybody has to be involved, okay? Now let's talk about a syndication. You know, when you, and this sounds intimidating. Oh my God, syndication sounds so intimidating. Not a big deal. You're stroking a check to an attorney that helps you put it together. It's not a big deal. But in this case, the members or the limited partners, the LPs, they don't take part in any decisions. Only the general partners or the GPs, they run the show, okay? And that's a syndication. And basically it becomes a security and it's subject to the Security and Exchange Commission, the SEC. So you're going to hear a lot of terms today: syndication, underwriting, NOI, cap rate, you know, you know, it'll be a lot, but that's okay. You know, and this is why you should get your ass to my boot camp, because repetition is the mother of skill. You need to hear it over and over again, and we go much deeper there, obviously. So there's a couple different kinds of investors, okay? The first is equity investors, okay? And that's what I'm talking about with the LPs, the limited partners, okay? These are equity investors, limited partners. And again, the acronym is LPs. And you know, they get a piece of the deal. They get their proportionate share of not only the cash flow, but also the tax benefits and certainly the profits from the sale. Those are the LPs, the equity investors. And the split between you and your equity partners is determined by the numbers of the deal, okay? So typically, and they may or may not stay in the deal if you refinance. Hang on, I got to get something to drink. 1 second. By the way, if you get tired because some of this stuff gets dry, you're dehydrated, okay? So make sure you're drinking. This has got my greens and my vitamins and all that crap in it because I'm old and I need it. So again, equity partner may or may not stay in the deal. Now, very often in a syndication, the way it's structured, now you're going to have questions about this, but I'm going to give you a real high level, is the people that put the money in, these LPs, they get what's called a preferred return. And so what that means is they'll get anywhere from 5 to 8% right off the top. Of the cash flow, they get 5 to 8% return on their money right off the top. And then anything over and above that is split. Okay, once they get their preferred return, it's also called the pref. Again, you got to learn the verbiage. It's called the pref. Okay, anything over and above that pref return that they get is split. And that split can be 50-50, it can be 70-30, and the 70 would be in favor of them, 70-30, it can be 60-40. Geez, my handwriting is so freaking bad. 60-40, again, in favor of them. The tighter this split is, if you get to an 80-20, or God forbid a 90-10, that means it's a really skinny deal. So be careful with that. Now, even if you are just thinking of investing passively, it's called passively investing. That's what an LP investor does, is passive. Okay, it's armchair investing. You put the money in, you forget about it, you get updates, things like that. You should still freaking learn the business. At least get your butt to my boot camp to have an understanding. Why would you give your hard-earned money to someone without having a basic understanding of what it is? And you'll really understand the business, because see, here's the problem. An operator, this is what I call general partner, an operator can make a deal look fantastic just by tweaking a couple numbers. And if you don't understand that, you can get in a deal you shouldn't get in. And right now, there are a lot of deals in trouble. A lot of multifamily operators are in trouble because they got that adjustable rate debt. Or expenses have gone up and they didn't calculate for that. Rents have come down in some markets because there were a lot of units built. And so the expression is the water's going out and we see who's naked right now. And so there's incredible opportunity. I'm going to tell you right now, I've got a deal. There's several deals I'm seeing right now. My SEC attorney, my securitization attorney, who teaches at my boot camp, he teaches for an hour at my boot camp. 3 weeks ago, he got 6 new clients that were having apartment complexes foreclosed on. Okay, I don't know what he's done since then. That's when I talked to him. But there's a deal. So I've got a 200 unit complex in San Antonio. Okay, I love San Antonio. I've got a couple of units, a couple of properties there. Right next door is like a 300 plus unit, literally right next door to this one, okay? 300 plus unit. It's sold in 2022 for 43 million. The bank now owns it. It's down to 28 million. I'm not even interested unless it gets to 24 million. 43 to 24. That's what's out there right now, guys, okay? So if there was ever a time to get into this freaking business, it is right now, okay? Get up to speed as quickly as you can because the deals are here. Okay, so we talked about equity investors. So where do you find equity investors? I tell my warriors, my coaching students, and I'll tell you in the boot camp, and I'll tell you now, and if they hold still long enough, they need to know what it is you're doing, okay? So obviously friends and family. But you don't want to dabble if it's friends and family, okay? Because that can be a very awkward Christmas or a Thanksgiving. Okay, and I'll say, ask me how I know, because I had done some of these house deals with my brothers, and we lost it all, and it was very painful and very awkward. And they love me, and they know it wasn't my fault. Hell, countries went bankrupt in 08 and 09. So, but the point is, don't dabble. If you're going to do this business and raise money, don't dabble. So friends and family, credit cards. Hell, I put deals on credit cards. Just to give you some context, you know how the rates are high right now, interest rates? When I was 18. The interest rates were 18%. I remember doing freaking backflips when they hit 7%. I'm like, holy crap, it's 7%. So just to give you some context. But I was putting deals on credit cards because if the numbers make sense, who cares? It's all. By the way, this business is primarily empirical. It's primarily numbers. You get the numbers right and you ask all the right questions, pretty hard to make a major mistake, okay? But I was putting deals on credit cards. You can get money from equity lines of credit. A lot of people invest with their Roth self-directed IRAs. A lot of our LPs use their IRAs. You can get private money from investors, family offices. That came up earlier. You can get money from family offices. So that's how you raise equity. Now, the other type of investor is a debt investor, okay? Now, it's harder to raise money for a debt investor because once they get their money back, they're out, okay? So they don't get any equity. But they're kind of like a bank. And when you refinance, they're out. But I'll tell you a little ninja trick that I learned from a very, very wealthy woman, a friend of mine named Maureen. What she did was she told people that her preferred return was 8% on a deal. So that's going to get 8% right off the top. And then the split was 50-50, 50-50 split on her deals. But once they received, I can't remember if it was 12 or 15%, anything over and above that 12 to 15% was a return of capital, not a return on capital. Okay, you understand the difference? A return of capital. They're getting their money back. The rest of this is a return on capital. Does that make sense? So I know this is sneaky, but this is debt. Okay, because if you exceed that amount of money or that kind of return, it's basically debt. So it's a really clever way to let people give the impression of an equity investor, but it's really debt because you're taking them out once they hit a mark. And of course, they're thrilled if they get this kind of return, so nobody's unhappy. But I mean, she paid $8 million cash for a house, so give you an idea. She's a sharp cookie. I'm going to show you, where you can find low interest debt for these properties. Okay, but where do you find partners? Again, anywhere people gather. I told you I met a big partner at my health club, sporting events, soccer, the soccer field, church, of course, meetup groups, networking events. You can do your own presentations to investors. And certainly you can build a brand. I've got students that have, in fact, Victoria, who's coming on today, she does her own meetup group, or did, because I spoke at it in Tampa. And she's got a real social presence as well, and she raises money that way. And you can do the same thing. Okay. So let me ask you a question. How many of you would like to raise money to do these deals? Put yes in the comments if that interests you, because I'll talk about this a little more even. So if you're interested, okay, Patrick. Okay, good. I lost my chat here, buddy. Come here for a second. Come here for a second. Come here, and I lost one of the chats. I lost the other one. How do I get back to it? This is Raul. He's a kick-ass AV guy. There it is. Thank you. All right. All right. Okay, Mike, I apologize. I missed this. I'm going to do a couple of questions. Okay, great job, Patrick, Bird. Some of you want to raise money. Mark, awesome. Awesome. Okay. Mike, you own a 10-unit apartment property in California. Think of selling, flipping into triple net out of state. Okay. Triple net is typically like a retail situation where the tenant pays all the expenses, like a Walgreens, CVS. That's triple net. Okay. Okay, thought of Section 8 properties. I like Section 8. Okay, I will tell you, Section 8 used to be terrible because they could trash the property and stay in the program. They can't do that anymore. They call it housing now. It's called different things. I have housing tenants in some of my assets. It's great because they pay the rent on time. Let's see. Thought of Section 8 properties. Would you refi current property deal with deferred maintenance and do it again? That's a lot of questions, like you said, Mike. But listen, I hate everything I've ever sold unless it's in an area that's going down, okay? Like I had an asset in Shreveport. I don't even want to fly over freaking Shreveport airspace. That's how much I hated that deal. I might drill down a little more later. Memphis. I don't even want to fly over Memphis airspace. I feel like my IQ drops when I fly over it. So, if you live in either one of those two places, it's true. Anyway, but I regret every property I've ever sold, okay? So I don't know if that helps. Peter, I enjoy your comments. Enjoyed you on the seminar with Ken. Yeah, Ken's awesome the other day. Thanks, Peter. I appreciate you, brother. Okay, how do I scroll down here? I'm so not good at this. There we go. Okay. All right, beautiful. Okay, hold on. Questions. How do you overcome raising money if you don't have money to put in the deal yourself? Great question, Patrick. How do you overcome raising money when you don't have money yourself? What will happen if you do a syndication, okay, is you will be the GP, right? The general partner, the GP. Well, you can have what's called co-GPs that help you raise money or put money in the deal. Now, I have done deals where I have a co-GP put in, say, $500,000 or $1 million. Okay, this is not unthinkable. Okay, it's very realistic. That 500K put in by a co-GP is then part of the GP's contribution to the deal. Okay, it's the GP contribution at this point. So when an LP asks you, did you put any money in? Yeah. We've got $500,000 in this deal, okay? It doesn't have to be your money, but it has to be in the GP side of the deal. I hope that answers your question. I forgot who asked it now. Patrick, that's how you overcome that. It's done all the time, where you bring in a co-GP to put money into the GP part of the deal, because you've got the GP, which is the general partners, and you've got the limited partners, right? These are the equity investors, your limited partners. Well, they'll always ask, how much is the GP putting in? And we typically will put in 10%, but we raise it from other co-GPs. We don't put it in, I rarely put it in myself. I raise that money. You got a question there? No? Okay. Okay. All right. So, what you're going to have to come up with is what's called an elevator pitch. You've heard this before. It's what you can say to somebody when they're going down an elevator, because you want to get the question, what do you do? Okay? And you say, well, I'm so glad you asked. No, you don't, but you tell them what you do. And it's basically, listen, I'm investing in multifamily properties. There's incredible opportunities because of the interest rates right now. But I'm always looking for partners, by the way. So if you know anybody, let me know. It's that freaking easy, okay? You call it partners, you can call it investors, but I call it partners. Or I'm investing in multifamily properties in markets that are economically growing. We look for properties where we can force appreciation by adding value. And by the way, with investors, the best way to get investors is to educate, okay? That's what I do through my podcast. And I don't know if you follow me on social media. If you do, I apologize, because if you search my name, you'll get retargeted a lot. But you'll see that's what I do is I educate. It's called education-based marketing. Okay. But, and I say, who do you know that might be interested in partnering with me in investing? So that's an elevator pitch. Don't overthink it. Like I'll say it again. I'm investing in multifamily properties, and there's incredible deals right now because there's operators in trouble that got into that, adjustable rate debt. They're getting killed. And so there's incredible deals right now. By the way, I'm always looking for partners. That's how hard it is, okay? And again, you educate. But see, that's the other thing with these, we're going to talk about residential versus commercial multifamily. Residential is 2 to 4 units, commercial is 5 units plus. But with multifamily, you don't have to manage the tenants to fix the toilets or handle the day-to-day issues. You can hire a third-party property management company that handles all that, right? So if you're looking for a way to protect your income and create long-term stability for you and your family, that's what you do. Now, with an investor, you got to find out what their goals are, okay? These are questions you're going to ask an investor. So what are their goals? Are they looking for long-term or short-term investment? If it's short-term, this may not be a fit because this is typically 5 to 7 years. So you got to ask that question. When do they need money back? Right? Super important, right? But listen, pay attention to their personality. If they're an ass, don't do business with them. Life is too freaking short because you will sometimes managing your investors can be harder than managing your property, okay? And if they nitpick about acquisition fees, you just tell them, if you're more worried about what I'm making than what you're going to make, then this isn't going to be a fit, okay? Don't just trust me on this. And this is an ask me how I know thing as well. So once you're going to start working towards raising money, be it you've got a meetup, a lot of my warriors, I have dozens of meetup groups around the country they've established. I've got I think 24 podcasts they've created, award-winning podcasts. My warriors, my coaching students, a big presence online, social media. But so you got to nurture your relationships with your investors after you build that relationship. You do it with phone calls, with emails. You keep them warm, newsletters, send them articles. You do a Google alert that if an article comes up in Tampa, for example, and that's your market, you send them the article. Hey, this is why we love Tampa. You can do group meetings. You can give them gifts. You can do PowerPoint presentations. You name it. But by the way, my next virtual boot camp is March 7th and 8th. Why now? Because again, there's just a huge glut of properties on the market right now. Inventory is up. We're seeing some of the biggest price reductions since 2008 and 9. There are deals everywhere right now. Hey, yeah, in fact, I'll just talk about my boot camp for just a second. I've got a slide here I can show you. There we go. And if you didn't hear me earlier, it comes with unbelievable bonuses. It's $47 and it's 2 days. I don't sell anything there. So, no excuses. I give you a finding deals course. I teach you how to analyze a property, how to develop. And I spend time on mindset. I'm known for mindset. I spent 23 years with Tony Robbins. He's the best in the world at mindset. And that's the reason why my students are so successful. They actually take action with what they learn. You learn how to grow your network and how to build lifetime cash flow, how to structure your real estate business. You get my the bonuses include my finding deals course, my capital raising system. These are presentations that you get. The finding deals course, like 12 modules. You get my no money acquisition system. It's the presentation I did. You get my goal setting workshop. You get my weekly planning system. That's how I manage 2 very large companies at the same time. You get my document library. You get my deal analyzer software. All this included for freaking $47. So no excuses. You get my ultimate deal finder system. You get all of this stuff. I mean, like, I don't know, $10,000, $11,000 worth of bonuses. it's kind of a no-brainer. Anyway, go to is the link on there? There's no freaking link on there. Oh my God. It's rodsbonuses.com. Make sure I put that link on there. Okay. rodsbonuses.com. Okay, that's how you get that ticket. So no excuses. If you're serious about this, come spend a couple days with me. It's March 7th and 8th. Remind me to put the link on this slide and put the date on this slide. Okay. Oh crap. Go put it back on the other thing here. I have this and I didn't even realize I had this to show you guys. That's where it was. I had it on this slide. Anyway, so there's all the bonuses, okay? Again, I want to make it so irresistible. You'd be like, you'd be hitting yourself over the head if you don't do it, okay? You get all these things, my document library, you get my audio and PDF of my #1 best-selling book in 3 categories, my Finding Deals course, 12 modules, my content, my 12 module social media course. You get my no money down acquisition system, capital raising system, my planning system, deal analyzer software. I mean, there you go. So, okay. All right, let's keep going here. If you've got a question, throw it out there. I want to talk now more about finding money to buy your deals, okay? And we're going to talk about funding requirements and structure. So let's see if I got a question. Okay, hold on. I do have a question or two. Let's see. Okay. Rod, in this example, you find the money, you take down the deal, no partners. Where does the money come from to maintain the property or fix a maintenance problem? Well, I mean, when you do a deal, Bird, you're going to raise operating reserves. But I mean, by God, the property better cash flow to take care of the things you asked to fix, maintenance, and maintain. The cash flow should handle that, okay? But you're also going to raise a reserve, okay? Like I raised 6 months of expenses. When I raise money for a deal, what I'm doing is I'm raising money for the down payment. And by the way, it's called equity, okay? I know it's kind of a misnomer, but in our commercial real estate world, the money out of pocket to do a deal is called equity. And I know in single family place, you think, okay, you got a $100,000 value house, you owe 50, you got 50K in equity, okay? Well, in the commercial world, it's the money out of pocket, not the debt, but the money out of pocket, which would be the down payment, would be the closing costs, would be the money you raise for the capital expenditures called the CapEx, the fix-up costs. You're going to raise your acquisition fee. It's part of the closing costs, okay? That rolls into the closing costs. You're also going to, and I'm going to tell you to raise reserves. Your shit hit the fan fund. And I do 6 months of expenses in reserve on every deal I do. Again, if we get into a bump, I want to make sure there's enough money there to take care of it. So I think I answered your question there, Bird. All right. Let's see what else I got here. I think I got another question. How would you start as a foreign national? Well, I've got a bunch of students around the world in Turkey, the Netherlands, South Africa, ton in Latin America, ton in Canada. In fact, the Canadians even have their own Facebook group for the Warriors. You could consider my system where you align with domestic people here. Or you could do it in whatever country you're in. The dynamic's pretty much the same if you live in another country. The differences would be the way the entities are structured and the financing. But everything else is pretty much the same. So if you're interested, hold on. Poter, I would recommend, text the word crush to 72345 and talk to my team about my program. Why is now a good time to buy multifamily, Hannah? Because there's a ton of people in trouble, okay? This interest rate, these huge interest rate increases. I'll give you an example. We were looking at a small property in San Antonio, and lenders, when they have a multifamily property, they will make the owner pay reserves that go into a bank account in case something needs to get taken care of, or they've got a refinance coming up and there's got to be enough money to take care of that refinance. And this guy's reserves, monthly reserves, that he had to pay to the mortgage company. It was his money, but they had to hold it for him. Went from $8,000 a month to $80,000 a month. Could that be a problem? Okay, and there's lots of operators that are struggling right now because not only have their interest rates gone up with adjustable rate, but their expenses have gone up too. I used to teach a 50% expense ratio. Now I teach a 60% because expenses have gone through the roof. You can still make the deals work, but these old deals that were done based on that older expense ratio are struggling. Okay, so that's why there's great deals right now, extraordinary deals. I don't know if you saw my example, Hannah, of the deal in San Antonio that sold for $43 million. Now it's down to, come on here, scroll down my questions here. Bear with me. That's now $28 million, owned by the bank. That's why there's incredible deals right now. Let's see. Okay, so that's why it's a good deal. Okay, got it. We've answered the questions. All right. So funding structures. So let me give you the 4 pieces of this kind of simplified, okay? The first thing, and you could change the sequence of this a little bit. You could find the deal. You find the deal, if you find a great deal, you'll find the money. Hell, call Rod, okay? If you find a great deal. So that's the easiest way, most likely. But what you're going to do is you're going to look for deals, but you can put a team together, a sponsorship team. And what you're going to find is you're going to need someone with some experience, and you're going to need to meet what's called net worth. So you need experience. You also need to meet net worth and liquidity requirements for the loan. And so what do I mean by that? And this is the team, by the way. It's not one person. When you take down a 10, 20, 30, $40 million deal, you're going to need a team to qualify for it. And the lender is looking for the team to have a net worth equal to the loan amount, okay? They are looking for the team to have post-closing liquidity, meaning after you buy, you still have this much money in the bank, liquid, 10% of the loan amount. But again, it's the teams. You can find one high net worth individual that satisfies these requirements, okay? So you find the deals and then you raise the money. So that's really it. You find the deals, you put a team together, and you raise the money. That's the 4 pieces of this simplified, okay? Okay, is Victoria with us? Is she here yet? I think I'm a little early.
I'm on here.
Do you see her on? No? Not yet? Okay, we're gonna have to come
I'm
back to her.
on.
Keep watch for her. Let me text her.
I don't know why he
See if
can't
she can
hear
come
me.
on a little early.
I'm not
A
muted.
little quicker than I thought, which is not unlike me when I've had as much coffee as I've had this morning. MCG. There you go.
Tell him.
Okay. Whenever you're ready, please come on, period. All right. So keep an eye out for her. I'm going to get a drink of water. Again, make sure you're hydrated, guys. And we'll come back to her.
Victoria's on the call.
To them.
Okay. So just ping me when she comes on. So what's a sponsor? Okay. A sponsor is what I was just talking about. Someone that meets all or part of the experience component, the financial liquidity and or net worth component, and maybe they've borrowed money for multifamily in the past, okay? And basically you give them a piece of the deal, okay? And everybody that gets started in this uses a sponsor, okay? And that's how they get the deals done. So, and you negotiate that piece based on their level of involvement. Maybe they're not going to be heavily involved, or if they provide equity, okay? And you're basically don't be afraid to give them even a big piece, okay? Because your goal is to get in some deals so that you can put those deals on your resume. So this is how everybody starts, which is one of the big advantages of my Warrior coaching program, because there's dozens and dozens of sponsorship groups there. And again, if you find them a deal to bring them money, you're in, okay? So and you give them a piece of the deal. You get it on your resume for your first deal or two, and boom, you're off to the races. Okay, so that's how it works. Now, let's talk about pre-deal funding requirements. Okay, and so what do I mean by this? When in syndications and even in joint ventures, it's called the at-risk capital. And that's like the earnest money, okay, that you're putting up to lock up a property, the earnest money. That's like due diligence costs, because you're going to do some due diligence. And if there's any question about any of the mechanical, like the HVAC, the roof, the parking lot, the structure, you're going to get experts to check it out and make sure you're not getting into a problem. That costs money. So you got due diligence costs. You're going to have some financing costs. When you arrange with the lender to do the loan, you're going to have to give them an advance for legal fees. So for financing costs, and you're going to they have legal fees. They have that you have to pay for an appraisal. You have to pay for third-party reports, things like that. So this is all called the at-risk capital, and I've put up at-risk capital for deals as much as 600,000, and I get a slice of the deal for that. And you can give up a slice of the deal for that. So you might be thinking to yourself, how can I take down one of these big deals? I don't have any money. This is how you do it. You raise the at-risk capital from somebody. You get a good enough deal. I'll put up the money. They'll put up the money. They get a slice of the deal for putting all this together. They get it back, but it's still called the at-risk capital because, for some reason you screw up and you lose it. It's at risk, but you shouldn't, okay? Because you get plenty of notice and all that. But somebody's got to put this money up to get the deal started, and that's called the at-risk capital. And if you guys have questions, I'm going to. Okay, Victoria is online. Okay, let's bring her in, and I'll be able to hear her. Correct? Okay, there I see her. Okay, hey you.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. I'm great. Could you maybe take a minute and talk about, oh gosh, where you came from? Just like I'm interviewing you, for example, when you joined the Warrior Program and why. Just to give us kind of a brief overview of who you are, you and your husband.
Yeah, absolutely. So we live in Tampa now on the beaches side. My husband was military and we got stationed here and fell in love with it and have lived here ever since.
Yeah.
So when he retired, we stayed here. And also when he retired, we were looking for something that we could do together. We had always thought he might come into real estate with me because I've been a residential real estate agent since 2005.
Hold on
But
one second. Can they hear over there? Can they hear on the phones? Can you let me know if you guys can hear her? You can? Okay, I got a thumbs up. Sorry, Vic.
oh, it's
Sorry to
okay.
interrupt you. Okay.
Yeah, but
Okay.
when we got to that point, I was kind of getting burnt out on the single family residential sales and wanted to, find something else we could do together. And my husband happened upon your podcast and we were like, oh, this sounds super promising and sounds like something we would really love. So we ended up attending one of your boot camps and we just dove right in from there because it just really resonated with us. We joined the Warrior group shortly thereafter, and we've been Warriors for about 3 years now. Since that time, we've participated in like 9 different syndications, both as co-GPs and now as lead GPs. And for the people that maybe are new that don't know the difference, the co-GP is maybe someone that just joins a team to help either with managing the asset, also maybe bringing money to the deal, all the different aspects of things that need to be done to make these deals happen. That's considered a co-GP, whereas the lead GP is the person that's actually operating the deal and in most cases also found the deal. So these last 3 deals that we've done, we've been lead GPs on. We are really enjoying this space so much. It's been very life-changing for us. And I know that, we really wouldn't have got here without being Warriors and all the education that we got from Rod.
No, well, that's kind of you to say that. And by the way, I get I get this all the time. Well, you just bring on your best warriors. I could give you literally hundreds of people to do what she's doing here. Now, she happens to be a freaking rock star who I love and who's grateful enough to come on. And I'm grateful that she came on a Saturday just to add value to you guys. But please know that we have, as I said, my warriors now own, we believe, around 300,000 units. Which just blows my mind, as well as every other asset class. And so we've got a lot of success in the group. In fact, if you listen to my podcast, every rock star episode is a warrior, and there's tons of them there. So I'll give you an idea. But let's dig into a deal, Victoria. Well, or I think you might even have a portfolio. If you've got one, you could pick something you just closed on. Talk about what you bought, where it is, the unit count, and the city.
Yeah,
And
I
I'll
wanted to
just
talk
ask you
about,
questions. Okay?
sure. Today, the one I wanted to talk about is an asset that we closed on last January. It's a 128 unit complex in a
Okay.
little tiny town called Dayton, Texas, which is
Okay.
northeast of Houston. We bought that deal for 7.68 million, which works out to roughly about 60,000 a unit.
Oh, that's a good price.
Yes, and that's a little tertiary town. There's probably only about 10,000 people there, but it's very convenient to Houston.
And let me interject something. Let me interject something. One of the things you're going to hear, I believe I get into it today in deal analysis. I'm sorry, in area analysis. I know I go into much more detail at the boot camp, but you want a decent population because tell me in the chat what you think the most important piece is that you're looking for in a market. Tell me in the chat what you think the most important piece you're looking for with a multifamily property. Let's see if somebody gets it. Okay. You hear, is it population? Is it income? Is it what is it? Growth, median income? Okay, good guess, but that's not it. The number one thing, guys, is jobs. Okay. It all relies on jobs. And so when Vic says it's population of 10,000 people, I tighten up. But it's a tertiary growth market for Houston. Fantastic. It can be a sleeper community. So I just wanted to interject that. Please continue, Vic.
Yeah, so this is a Class C, probably it was a C when we bought it. We've put a
Okay.
significant amount of work into it since we bought it. There was a lot of deferred maintenance. We've really changed the whole look of the community, and I would call it a C plus now. So we've been very lucky to have steady occupancy at this property without having to spend a whole lot on advertising or marketing. It stays occupied, and the
What was
tenants
the
are
occupancy when
happy.
you bought it, and what is it? Where are you at with it?
It's stayed steady since we bought it. We're holding right around the 92, 94%, depending, on the month.
Fantastic. So what was the number one reason you jumped on this thing? What excited you about it?
Well, our partner that found this deal, Michael Davidoff. So in the Warrior Group, we've
No, another
formed a
warrior.
partnership. There's five of us, and our partner
Okay.
Michael Davidoff found this property, and he actually found it on an auction site,
Wow.
that 10X auction site, and it
Hmm.
was kind of suspicious. Like, why was it on there? Why was it not just being marketed? Because the occupancy was good. There doesn't seem to be any reason for it to be on an auction site. And he found out that the broker that had listed it there was from New York, I believe, or California. So he wasn't even local to the property. He'd never visited the property. The owner of the property hadn't been to the property in years.
Wow.
And he was just done with it and just wanted to sell it. So it was appealing to us
Wow.
because it was not really on market. There wasn't a lot of competition for it. And he was able to lock it up with a first right of refusal, so that we could down there and do the due diligence on it. And he only had to give the seller 50,000 for that first right of refusal. And it really made us feel better, getting down there to see the property, see the
Sure.
condition of it, do our due diligence before negotiating the price.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. So, how did you? What was? Let's keep going here. How much did you raise for this deal, and what was the debt? And talk about how much the debt was and how much and what type of debt, please?
Yeah, so that was another thing that was a big win at this property is there
Okay.
was assumable debt. So
Oh,
what we had
nice.
negotiated with this seller um, was one price if we could assume the loan and another price if we couldn't.
Oh, that's so smart. By the way, guys, you can all that's called multiple offer strategy. And it's very common in single family. You'll make an offer, hey, I'll pay your full price if you sell or finance or so on and so forth. So that's called a multiple offer strategy. Please continue. I want to elaborate on some of these things you bring up, Vic.
Yeah, sure. So it was a full term interest only Fannie Mae loan. So it's
Wow.
still interest only at this time. It had
Wow.
6 years remaining on the loan, which is perfect for our business cycle because we're planning
Sure.
it for 5 years. And the rate, Rod, the rate is 381.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah.
3.8. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic rate. So what how much was the debt? You recall?
And the debt, we were able to get a 65 percent LTV.
Okay. Okay, so you
And
can do the
so
math yourself. But so how much did you raise?
So we ended up raising 3.8 million.
Okay,
We did have to raise obvious for some reserves like you were just
right,
talking about, and also
right.
our CapEx, our capital expenditures. We were planning to do quite a bit to this property, as I mentioned, with the deferred
So
maintenance.
how much was the CapEx?
The
You recall?
CapEx was about 800,000.
Okay, good amount. Okay, and did you charge an acquisition fee? And if so, what percent?
We did a 2.5 acquisition fee,
Okay, so 2.5%. What was the purchase price again?
7.68.
Okay, what's the math on that? Just I want to excite these people a little bit. What's that acquisition fee? Hang on, I can do it
That is a
myself
good
here.
question.
Okay, 768 million. Clear 768 times 0.025. That was 192,000. Does that sound right?
That sounds right.
Okay, so 192K acquisition fee. That's better than a sharp stick in the eye, yes? Okay, love it. All right,
Yes,
and you assume that debt, which is fantastic debt, um, and you raise some reserves,
yes.
and okay, and
And what we
CapEx.
really like about this deal size is, we really didn't have to have a big team to raise that amount of money. With our core partnership that we have, we raised the bulk of it, and we only had to bring on really one other GP
Hmm.
to raise, a little bit more and to help us with the asset management.
And guys, that's how it's done sometimes. When you've got to raise, you've got to raise a decent amount of money. You're not sure if you're going to get it all. You bring on a co-GP or two, and have them raise the money. But you want to be careful because sometimes they have like when you order too much food, their eyes are bigger than their stomach, and they claim they can do something and they can't. So be careful with that. But that's how it's done. Love it. Um, let's see. Oh. Talk about some of the underwriting assumptions that you made when you looked at this property, like rent growth, your expense ratio, your exit cap, things like that. Talk about, and guys, I'm going to explain some of this as she goes into it. But one of the things that you can do with the software that comes with the Bootcamp, the Deal Analyzer software, is you can do a projection and pro forma based on what you think the rents will be, the expenses will be, and so on and so forth. And I go into more detail in the boot camp on this, but you can do that. And so you're gonna look at rent growth, like typically as a percentage. You're gonna look at the expense ratio as a percentage, and expense growth as well. And you're going to put in an exit cap rate, meaning what do you think the cap rate's going to be when you sell? Now that's a big guessing game, but maybe you can give us an idea of what you did on this one, Vic.
Yeah, so that was another thing that made this opportunity really exciting for us is this seller was running this property at a very high expense ratio. He was
Okay.
at about 76%.
Holy crap. Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
And
No wonder he
so
wanted to sell. Jeez.
right. Yeah,
Okay.
he had a payroll that was through the roof. He had so many people working at this place for a little
Wow.
128 unit property. I really don't understand why, but there was a lot of a lot of fluff. I think he was getting taken advantage of because he
Sure.
wasn't local and wasn't paying attention to the property. So we very conservatively underwrote that we would be bringing it down, but we didn't say like overnight we're going to take it to this
Right.
50%, right?
Right,
So
right.
we underwrote year one at 65.
Good.
We
And then you
achieved
dropped it down over the years?
we did, and we
Got it.
achieved better than that in our first year. We've been able to run it very efficiently,
Mm,
and we're already closer to 60, and we've
good.
only owned the property a little over a year now. And I'm very confident we'll be able to continue to bring that expense ratio down with this property.
Nice. Well,
The
I used to teach 50%, and I think that ship has sailed at this point, with payroll where it is, with expenses where they are, with insurance and taxes where they are. But I mean, if you hit 50%, you are killing it right now because, things have gone through the roof.
Yeah.
Okay. Then, so
Um,
what about your exit cap? How did you calculate that? Do you know what your going in cap was by any chance?
Yeah,
Or
our going in cap was pretty much in line with market. It was about 6.5. And in that market, that is pretty
excuse me. Okay.
where you're at. And with this underwriting, we just are leaving it flat. We're assuming that,
Gonna
it's
stay
not.
there? Yeah, good. Good, good, good.
Yeah, yeah, I
Um,
know. A lot of people are still maybe underwriting that they're going to go down, and some people are still building in some buffer that they'll go up. But we do feel like just leaving it flat was pretty conservative.
and that is absolutely underwriting conservatively. And by the way, I haven't even talked about cap rate with you guys yet. It's one methodology you utilize to value a property. Another thing that you use is the types of returns, the amount of the returns that you can generate, either cash on cash or internal rate of return, which I will talk about in a little bit. I'm getting a little ahead of myself with this presentation, but I wanted to ask her while we had her. Um, let's see. Were there any due diligence surprises, either good or bad, when you got into the due diligence? And I'm going to step away just to blow my nose because hang on one second, but go ahead and answer the question.
Sure, sure. Yeah. Luckily, the couple of surprises that we had were pretty small in the overall picture. This is where I do like to give my partners a little bit of a jab because it was all the guys that went and did the due diligence, and
Right?
not a single one of the guys noticed that the playground equipment was like a hazard, and I
Wow.
would never let my child play on this playground equipment. And Rod, I don't know that people realize how much these playgrounds cost these days.
Oh yeah. No, we paid 55,000 for one at our Nashville asset. Yeah.
Yes, and if you aren't budgeting for that, that can hurt a little bit for sure. So that was one surprise was that we were going to have to replace that. It was not repairable. It was all rusted out and
So there were a lot of children at this asset. By the way, guys, if you've got 2 and 3 bedroom units like that Nashville asset I was talking about, it's all 3 bedroom units, and there's no playground. I'm like, there's tons of kids and they got nowhere to play. So that was one of the first things we did. So I assume that. And by the way, you're going to see demographics where you don't need a playground. Like I've got an asset that we sold in Dallas. It was all 1 bedroom units, beautiful 1 bedrooms with fireplaces, but they don't need a playground. So you got to
right.
look at what that demographic needs. So you saw that there were kids there and they needed a freaking playground. Yeah.
Yes, then that playground gets so much use. The tenants are
Yeah.
so happy to have a nice brand new playground, and it's been a good retention tool for us there.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing that we missed is the pool concrete, all the concrete decking around the pool was in really worse shape than we thought it was. And that ended up costing us quite a bit to get all
You had
that
to
repaired. There were
resurface
several
it.
trip hazards. And whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah. Did
We
you completely
did. Yeah.
resurface it or just patch it?
We did the bigger areas that were really messed up, we had to patch first, but then we did completely resurface it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That can be costly. We've done that as well. So, okay,
That
that
we
was my
missed.
next
But
question.
two wins that we had though with our underwriting, Rod, that I'd love to share is
Yeah, please.
on our taxes that we had underwritten to, go up to the highest level that they could possibly go up is how we
Mhm.
underwrote it. And we had a big, huge win with that because our PM automatically appealed the taxes. I guess
By a PMS property management company,
property
guys. Okay.
manager, yes, sorry.
Hmm.
They automatically appeal the taxes every year in Texas, and they they won and they got our taxes way lower than what we had underwritten. So it was a huge win for us.
Fantastic.
And not only that, our insurance, although we had a little surprise with the insurance last minute at the end, right before closing, the lender threw on some extra requirements for insurance that caused our insurance to go up. But
Mm.
we just had to renew our insurance this past month, and our insurance went down 14%. So we're super excited about that.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's
I
fantastic.
have seen insurances starting to go down in a lot of markets.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, they are. Yeah. We've seen big reductions in taxes and insurance as well, which is thank God.
Yeah.
Were there any environmental, zoning, crime, or neighborhood issues that either popped up or you had to price in?
Um, I mean, this is a real small little Texas town, so we don't
Mhm.
really have any crime issues around here, which is a blessing. Um, and all of our environmental reports that we had done, everything turned out fine, so we didn't have any worries with any of that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, and guys, but you got to do all these checks. You need to do your environment. Even if you listen, and I tell this at the boot camp, but I'll say it right now. Even if you do a seller finance deal where, and pretty much any lender is going to require an environmental report. It's called a phase one at the very minimum. And and if there's any question at all about environmental issues, they'll make you do a phase two, which is a deeper dive. But you're going to want to do a phase one even if you buy a seller finance deal, because if there's an EPA issue where there was a gas station there decades ago or a dry cleaner or something like that, and the EPA finds out about it, I don't care if you just closed on it yesterday. Guess who pays for it? You do. Okay, so you always want to check that. Um, did you have to? By the way, guys, when you renegotiate in our business called retrading, did you do any retrading on this deal?
Yeah, this is a fascinating story too, and another
Okay.
reason why I love our partners so much. And it's
Okay.
he negotiated this probably much better than I could have. So I think it's always pays to have a good team on your side.
Mhm.
So I mentioned that we had given the seller two options on this when we submitted our LOI, our letter of intent to purchase the property. We had told him we would pay 8.1 if we could assume the loan. And if we could not assume the loan, it would be at 7.29.
Mm.
But as you see, we ended up at 768 and we were able to assume the loan. So that's like a
Wow.
400 something thousand dollar difference. We did retrade, but
Based on what? Based on what, Vic?
the retrade was based on Michael's feeling that he thought the seller would come down more. There really was
Wow.
no
Wow.
physical um,
Wow. He's
re
tough. I know Michael. He's tough. Okay, well, that's really good.
yeah,
Although, let me just say this. You do not want to be known as the person that always retrades a deal because it will piss off a broker. And brokers can make you wealthy. So just keep that in
for
mind. You don't
sure, for
negotiate every
sure.
deal. But
Yes.
that's nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, that
Uh,
was a huge win.
so what was your structure on the deal in your syndication? What was the which remember guys is the preferred return, and then what was the split, which is also called the promote, guys. It's called the split or the promote. Can you tell us what you did there?
Yeah, so we're paying a 7% preferred return
Okay,
and we're doing a 60-40 split
fantastic. So that'd
up
be 60
to,
in favor of the limited partners and 40 to her team. Fantastic
yes,
split. That just
but
speaks to the
then,
quality of the deal. Okay, that means it's a good deal.
yes, but we only are doing that to a 15 IRR and then we're doing
Oh,
50-50.
fantastic. So this is called a waterfall, guys. So if once she gets these LPs, once these LPs get to 15% return, the split, the promote goes to 50-50. We just did the exact same thing on a deal we closed as well. So that's called a waterfall, okay? Well, actually, the preferred to the split is also a waterfall. But this is a fantastic way that if you kick ass and get the returns up, you make more money. And of course the investors love it because if they get a 15% return, they're thrilled. So fantastic way to do it. Okay. Um, so talk about raising money for a minute, Victoria. You're so good at it. Talk about some of the things that you do because we're going to spend time on a little more time on that. I've already talked about it a little bit, but I'd like to, I remember I was telling them before you came on that I went and spoke at your meetup or a meetup that you were involved with. Talk about some of the things you've done to build reach.
Well, truth be told, my husband is better at the capital raising than I am, but we do work on everything together as a team. So I support him in a lot of ways in the administrative tasks. There is a lot of admin that goes into this capital raising with drip campaigns and keeping in touch with the investors and follow-up calls and things of that nature.
But what about connecting with them initially? I'm not the nurture piece. What about, do you guys have a social media component or do you just do
Yes.
the media? You do. Okay. I mean, I know you've got
Yes,
some
huge
basic
on the
knowledge of
social
it.
media. My husband
Okay.
is huge on LinkedIn. He's
Okay.
joined a program that has kind of taught him how to do that effectively, and it's been a game changer for us because, when you first get into this, I think everybody starts out raising money mostly from friends and family, and you
Right.
deplete that pretty quickly, right? And then you're going to need to get some cold contacts into your
Right.
database. And the best
Right.
way to do that is really with social media or with these meetups.
Hmm.
Those have been very effective for us as well. But the LinkedIn posting on that every single day, sharing your wins, giving valuable information, doing webinars that kind of teach this. A
Remember
lot
what
of
I
people
said,
don't
guys?
know.
Remember what I said? Education-based marketing. Okay.
Yes, so many people
You
have never heard of a syndication. So just getting the
right.
word out of what it is and how they can make money doing it for so many people is life-changing.
Right.
Educating them that they can use their IRAs to invest in these
Right. A lot
opportunities.
of people don't know that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Uh,
so a lot of it is education and just
mhm.
putting out there what we're doing. People are always fascinated by real estate, and that kind of creates that first outreach. But then you do have to nurture these people. And
Right.
I mean, a lot of our investors will be talking to them for a year or two before they actually invest in a deal. It takes work and dedication. You can't just throw something out there on Facebook or LinkedIn and think, oh, the person's going to invest now because they know who I am. You have
Right.
to work at that, creating that connection and continuing to keep in touch with these people so that they just start associating you with multifamily and with investing, and they look to you to be the expert in that space, and then they're excited to invest when you do have a deal.
That's it. That's it. You build that you build that rapport, then you nurture that relationship in any number of ways through phone calls, like I said, or this I talked about this earlier, through webinars, through emails, through gifts, through you name it. And and by the way, guys, as part of my boot camp, you get my Crushing It in Social Media course, which is 12 modules. Again, that's also included for the 40 freaking $47 price. So no excuses, okay? Tell me your excuse.
Yeah, and I think
Okay.
for me, it was a mindset shift on that, right?
Yeah.
Because you feel like you're being salesy or, people are, tired of you posting about this. But then when you just shift how you're thinking about that and you're really actually helping people, you're offering to
Yeah.
help them, and they then come to you. It kind of changes the narrative when
I want to expand on what you just said. Okay, guys, you are not selling, you are offering an opportunity. Okay, period. And that's the mindset you have to take when you because it's the truth. Okay, and when you adopt that mindset, it's a completely different presentation and conversation, even just mentally for you. But it's a fact, and when you approach it like that, it's the right way to do it. All right, let's see here. Who I think you answered that question. How did you pick your property management? Were they in place and you kept them, or you get someone new?
No, we did get someone new.
Okay.
We did not have anyone in that particular market that we were familiar with. So we interviewed several different property management firms before we hired one.
Mm,
It was a very lengthy process and pretty
right.
stressful. But now that we have them, we've been working with them for over a year. We really have a good relationship with them. They do a great job for us. So we'll definitely be using them on our other assets moving forward.
Nice, nice. By the way, in your resources, guys, there's this book, How to Hire a Third Party Property Management Company, and it's got pretty much every possible question you could think of in the book or in the links. So I think it's probably the best resource on the topic that there is, and it's free. Okay, so no, again, there you go.
Uh, and every property type might need a different property management company. You might
Sure.
not want to use the same for like this Class C property that we have here. If we had a Class A property, I don't think that property manager would be a good fit, right? So
Right.
you have to keep that in mind as well, like what type of clientele you're servicing and what market you're in.
And it's not just that. I'm going to tell you, it's even more than that. You cannot give you cannot give a C property to a property management company that's only done A and B properties. And I had a property in Shreveport, Louisiana, where that happened. We had a partner. He insisted we use his management company. It was a complete you-know-what show,
Hmm.
and because they just managed B properties, they had no idea how to handle a C property. And when I stepped in and finally kicked them out after 8 months, the both pools were green. There were 50 shopping carts, broken windows, shootings. They were grossing $100,000 a month on a 403 unit asset. 100,000.
Oh,
I practically lived there for 3 months. I got the income up to 300,000. And thank God we sold it, because we found out through Charlie. Charlie went by there, Charlie and our Warrior Group went by there and said it's completely empty. It's completely, they're going
oh,
to basically raise it. So yeah, it's, but the reason I brought that up is because there was the wrong management company in place, and so that's super important. So not just the asset class from where you can't give an A and B property to a C property management company or vice versa. Same with the size. If you've got a 100+ unit asset, you can't give a management company that's done 20+ unit assets. They'll screw it up. Okay, it's this. So not only the asset class has to be the same, but same with the size properties that they manage. Super important. Okay,
absolutely.
thanks for bringing that up. And let's see. Um, ta, 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 ta. Boy, we've got nice and deep on this. Hang on a second. Let's see what else I got. Um, Talk about, this is right up your wheelhouse. Talk about we guys, remember I talked about asset management fees? I assume we charge 2%. I don't know what you charge. Is that in
Yep,
line?
that's what
Yeah.
we're charging.
So 2% of the gross collected rent you charge for asset management fees, and that's to go visit the property, because Vic doesn't live in Texas, and I've got assets in 7 states. You got to go travel there. You got to go check it out. But talk about some of the KPIs that you review on an asset. And so what is a KPI? It's a key performance indicator. It's a metric, okay? So talk about some of the things, because I'm certain you have a weekly call with them. Talk about what you review on those weekly calls.
Yeah, the obvious ones I think that everyone reviews are the occupancy and the
Right,
delinquency. Uh,
right.
we definitely follow those closely. The
Mm-hmm.
number of vacant units, how many are turned, meaning ready
Right.
to be occupied and
Vacant or vacant
not.
ready.
Yes,
Right.
vacant, not ready. The collections, of course. And then
Mm-hmm.
we also track work orders very
Mm-hmm.
carefully. How many are open, how many are completed, how many were emergencies. Um,
Right. And how long they took to complete. Right.
yes, how long they took to complete and what they were. At this
Mm-hmm.
particular property, that was really important to us because a big part of our CapEx was to replace almost every single AC unit there. So we
Yep.
knew we were
Yep.
going to have a lot of AC issues when we bought this property. And
Mm-hmm.
being in Texas in the summer, you definitely have a lot of AC issues.
Right.
But another thing that we have tracked that has really helped us with our tenant retention is getting reviews for the property.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
every week we really push the PM to the property manager to have the leasing agent, the maintenance team, everyone that's there on the staff to work really hard to get reviews for
That's
us.
that's right. We even do contests for that. I've given away as much as $1,000 for the most reviews, and what you do is you give them a card or a QR code. So when the maintenance guy's in there and he fixes something, he's like, "Hey, can you do me a solid? We're having a contest for the best reviews." and gives it to them right there. Can you do it right now while I'm here? And it's very effective because everybody goes online to check out these properties. Can you chat about renewals as well, Vic? Because I know you track that as well.
Yes, renewals we track for sure, and we've been so fortunate with our renewals at this property. We're almost always in the over 70%, oftentimes 80, and sometimes even 100% renewal.
So let me talk about what that means, guys. So what you're going to do is you're going to take a look at when your leases expire, and your management company needs to be 3 or 4 months in advance of that expiration, talking to those tenants to get them to renew, because the highest expense besides taxes and insurance, tell me in the CapEx what you think in the CapEx, in the chat, what you think the highest expense is besides taxes and insurance on a property. I'm just curious if you guys, I think I kind of gave it away here, but let's see if you guys know what it is. What's the highest expense besides taxes and insurance? Throw it in the chat here for me. And you can't see both chats, I don't think, Victoria. Okay. Okay, I've got some questions here I need to answer as well. Holy cow, a bunch of them that I missed. Turnovers, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So you want to do everything you can to minimize turnovers, which is renewals, okay? And sometimes if you've got occupancy issues, you'll even give, concessions like, hey, 500, 1,000 off the next month's rent, or, or prorated over 3 months to stay, if you let us know within 3 days that you're staying, okay? So you do things like that as well, super important. Yeah, so yeah, it's turnover, guys. It's make readies.
We really try to make a lot of effort to keep the tenants in, because it does save you so much money. And a
Right.
good way to do that is create like the sense of community in these communities.
Talk about how you do that. That's a great point. Talk about how you do that.
So we do a lot of resident events,
Right.
resident appreciation events, fun events, particularly in this community because there are a lot of kids. We tend to focus our events on the children. Like for Halloween, we did a pumpkin painting event where the kids could come in and paint the pumpkins, and a sidewalk chalk event where they could come and do chalk art and
Oh, how fun.
gave away a
Okay.
prize for whoever had the prettiest chalk art. All these things
Oh, I love it.
on the children. That gets a lot of the neighbors to come into the leasing office, hang out, get to know each other, and that creates that stickiness when they feel like you care about them, you're doing things in this community that matter to them, and then they're more apt to stay. So that really has been very effective for us.
Oh yeah, guys, and I mean, you can have pizza parties at the pool. You can have grab and go breakfast where your whole leasing team is out by the driveway, and as they're leaving, you give them a bagel and some cream cheese as they're leaving for work. And you know what? You can get vendors to pay for this stuff because you spend a lot of money on maintenance, parts and things like that. So you can get a vendor, to pay for this stuff. And we typically always get vendors to pay for this stuff. And so. But these community events are critical because, again, your highest expense is turnover. And so, that's why you want to do everything you can to mitigate that. Let's see.
Yeah, but the best way to keep your tenants is the quick maintenance
Oh,
request.
yes.
That is what matters the
No
most.
question.
Amongst all tenants is if
No question.
they have something broken, you need to fix it quick.
And here's what I say about that. If they have a legitimate maintenance request, you fix it immediately. Now, if it's a blind that got screwed up from their dog, that's not as urgent and you make them pay for it. But if it's plumbing, electrical, HVAC, anything like that, rodents, anything, you take care of it immediately. And then you always follow up and say, hey, did we take care of you? Are you okay? Yeah, great point. Great point, Vic. So is there, there are a lot of people that watch this, listen to this, that know they need to, take action. Speak to them for a minute, Vic. Speak to someone that's sitting on the sidelines. And I got to tell you, and I mentioned this on a podcast interview. There are a lot of people that have jobs that are very likely going away with AI. I mean, it's kind of scary. I mean, if Elon Musk on his interview on Joe Rogan, the last one, said that if you're working in front of a computer, those jobs are going to be gone within literally as short as a year or two. I mean, Meta just laid off a bunch more people. Amazon laid off people, and they're on the forefront of this. So if you're in one of these jobs, you maybe need to start thinking about how you reinvent yourself, be it multifamily, be it buying businesses, whatever it is. But, speak to one of these people that's sitting there listening, knows they need to do something, knows their family deserves it. What words of advice would you give them, Vic?
Yeah, I would say, educate yourself. That is the most important first step. But
Mhm.
I will say that a lot of people get analysis paralysis and then they start just like, oh, I need to know everything. I need to be perfect at this. I need to be able to underwrite. I need to be able to do this and that and all these different aspects of this business. But as Rod mentioned, this is a team sport.
Yeah.
And just taking that first step is the most important. So if you surround yourself with good people and build a team that you can trust, just take that step and get moving because education comes mostly from repetition. So once you start actually doing these things, you're going to learn a lot faster than just reading about them. Taking that first step is, I think, the most important thing, and not just continuing to sit there and think about it and over analyzing it
Yep.
because action is what's going to get you going. And you'll see, yes, this is a scary because we are talking about big numbers, millions of dollars. But when you have the right people around you, you can work together as a team and it can really be life-changing. It definitely has for us.
Yeah, that's one of the advantages of a program like our Warrior program because there are dozens and dozens of operators that have done this, and you can compare notes. And anyway, I know I'll see you at the Warrior event in May, sweetie. I appreciate you coming on here.
Absolutely.
Say hi to Marv for me. Please give her a big thank you in the chat here, guys, because she can see it. I really appreciate you coming on, adding some value today, Victoria, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Rod. It's great to
Okay,
see you.
thank you.
Hope to
All
see
right.
you guys all go to the boot camp.
Yep. Thanks. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
All
Bye.
right. Take care. See you later. Thank you so much. Okay, you got a bunch of thank yous rolling in here on the because we're kind of doing this live streaming to a whole bunch of different places. I've got phones going here. We're restreaming on LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Zoom, you name it. Anyway, yeah, she's amazing, right, guys? All right, I started in this business when I was 18. I was single, I was hungry, I knew I wanted financial success. I didn't have any credit. I had very little money. And after I bought my first house, I started having some net worth and I started having a schedule of real estate. So, by the way, were there any questions up there? No? Okay, good. I got phones going everywhere to try to add as much value as I can, as big as I can. But, here are your objectives, guys. Put as little of your own money in these deals as possible. Like I told you, you can raise what's called the GP interest in these deals. You can have somebody put that in, okay? So put in as little of your own money as you can. Get the return of you and your investors' money back as quick as possible, and force the high. So little money as possible. Um, get your money back as fast as possible, and and um, uh, and force appreciation as fast as you can. Okay, by improving the property and improving the net income. Those are the high level objectives that I want you to focus on. And again, what can you buy that somebody else pays for, right? Not stocks, not crypto. The tenants pay off your debt. It's extraordinary. That's why we love this freaking business. Now, there are, okay, so let's talk about returns for investors, okay? And there's some different types of returns. The first return is cash on cash. So what does that mean? Cash on cash. Cash on cash is how much money you get on the money you put into the deal. So let's say you invest 100K in a deal and you get 10K back each year. That obviously is a 10% cash on cash return. By the way, this is the biggest metric that I use. I use this more than even cap rate. I want to know how much my money is going to come back to me and how fast, okay? The cash on cash gives you a really accurate figure on your returns. Now, this includes debt, by the way, okay? And honestly, I like to see a cash on cash return of 10 to 12% if at all possible, okay? That's what I like to see. That's Rod's favorite right there. I've gone lower than that, but this is what I prefer. And again, it includes debt. So it's the returns when you're paying everything, including debt. Okay? So that's the cash on cash return. All right, then you've got the internal rate of return, the IRR, okay? In the IRR, internal rate of return, and I know this sounds complicated, but it's really not. Internal rate of return is just the return from every possible way. So it includes the appreciation, however whatever you end up selling it for, or whatever whatever you force for appreciation. It includes the cash flow for the term of, and typically what you'll do is you'll calculate an IRR on a 5 to 7 year pro forma. It's like you'll calculate it over a 5 to 7 year period. That's the most common. And by the way, the software you get with my Bootcamp, $47 Bootcamp ticket does all that for you, okay? And so you'll calculate that, and you'll show what you think, because you're gonna put in what you end up selling it for, right? And so you've got to calculate that. It include the cash flow. It even include principal reduction on the debt. Okay, principal reduction. So this is the internal rate of return. Okay, the IRR, and so these are the two returns that investors want to see. They want to see the cash on cash, and they want to see the total return they can expect over the life of the deal. Okay, and typically I like to see something in the 18 to 24% IRR. That's what I like to see. And I'm also doing senior housing now, and I'm seeing really nice returns there as well. So I bought my first assisted living facility, and we're on track to buy another 10 in the next 18 months. Very excited about senior housing as well. I don't want to get too distracted here because this focus right now is multifamily, but just FYI. Okay, so we talked earlier about what's a joint venture. Okay, and a joint venture is where every partner is active in the business, and it should probably have 5 people or less than that. Okay, and you split up responsibilities. And again, I've done millions of dollars worth of joint ventures in my 20s. My students have done joint ventures where they didn't put any of their own money in. The partner puts up the money. So that's a joint venture, JV. Okay, and then there's syndication, which is what Victoria just did on that deal. In Texas. Okay, that was a syndication. She raised the money. We talked about the returns. We talked about the structure with the preferred return and the splits, and how she got them more than 15%. It was a 50-50 split instead of the 60-40. So the technical definition for syndication is anytime there's an investment of money in a common enterprise with an expectation of profits through the efforts of a promoter, i.e. in this case it was Victoria, and the same with my deals. Now, in the syndication, let's talk about some things in a syndication. And again, we go into a lot more detail at my boot camp on this. I have an SEC attorney, Merrill Callister, come in and teach you for an hour on syndications, and I have a finance guy, our loan broker, teach you about financing for an hour. But there's different types of investors in a syndication. There's the sophisticated. And candidly, in my opinion, if they fog a mirror, they can be sophisticated, but they're supposed to have some business knowledge. But then there's accredited. Now, these are the two you're going to encounter, 2 types of investors, okay? 2 types. There's 2 types of deals there's 2 types of syndications that I teach. Now, there's other types, but they're more involved and they're less common. But the 2 that I teach, one of them is a 506B and a 506C. Now, a 506B was what I grew up on, okay? And with the 506B, you cannot talk about a deal back in the day unless you've touched them 3 times, 3 touches. You can't advertise at all, okay? That's a 506B. But then when because you're getting sophisticated investors, okay? You can take as many accredited as you want, but you can only take 35 sophisticated in a 506B. I know I'm doing this kind of fast, but I'm kind of giving you an overview on it. 506C, you can advertise, you can shout it from the rooftops. That's all I do. Now, a 506C, they all have to be accredited. So what does accredited mean? Accredited means they make $200K a year if they're single, with the expectation of it to continue, or 300K a year if they're married. Or they have $1 million net worth without their personal residence. That's an accredited investor. You'd be a lot of accredited investors in this country, millions, okay? But that's accredited. Now, with a 506C, you can advertise. That's all I do. I can talk about it on my podcast. I can tell you about a deal right now. But I have to only take accredited investors, which meet those income or net worth requirements, okay? 200K in income, 300 if they're married, or $1 million net worth, okay? And so, you know, but I'll be honest, you're going to encounter probably 4 different types of investors, and you probably fall into one of these buckets as well. You've got no money. That's number one. You know, but you find a deal, you'll find the money. So that's number one. So I would say no money. Okay, different types of investors, no money. Okay, then the second would be little money, and you want to do deals on your own, but you want to own 100% of it. Okay, that'd be option 2. Number 3 is you've got little money, but you're willing to syndicate and you know, raise money for deals, which is what my students do. You know, the biggest investors in the world raise the money to do their deals. Okay, so that's 3, but you're going to raise the money. Then the 4th would be someone that wants to be passive. They've got a full-time job or, you know, a consuming job. They don't want to do this business. Maybe a dentist, a doctor, chiropractor, business owner. They're just too busy to do this actively. Tell me which one of these groups you're in the chat. Tell me which one of these groups you're in. You know, if you got little money, number 2, you want to do 100% yourself. If you've got no money at all, if you've got a little money, but you want to raise the money for deals, or if you want to just be passive. Tell me which one you are. Okay, Chris, passive. Hang on here. Okay, no money. Number 3, good. Good. Passive. Number 1, no money at all. Okay. Super. Okay. Thanks for sharing, guys. So the back to the syndications for a minute. You know, like I said, there's the 506B where you can't solicit at all. Okay. Now on the 506B, you can only you can't advertise, you can't solicit. That means you can't put it on Facebook. You can't send a blanket email. You have to have what's called a pre-existing relationship. Okay. That's a 506B. Very few deals are done this way anymore because you need to advertise. And then there's the 506C, which is newer. Again, the Dodd-Frank Act came in with the 506C. And again, I know I'm doing this kind of fast, but you can advertise it, you can shout it from the rooftops, but you can only take accredited investors. Okay? They have, you know, again, 200K in income, 300 if they're married, or $1 million net worth without their personal residence. And you have to verify that they have that. And we teach you how to, there's a portal you can use that does it all for you. So you don't have to, but you are required to verify that they are accredited. But again, you put them in a portal, and that's how it's done. And a portal is just a software system. And we teach you how to do that. So, anyway, as I said previously, I have, you know, I'm pushing my boot camp because I can't cover it all on a Saturday morning. Okay. And I've got a boot camp coming up March 7th and 8th. It's $47. You're going to learn how to fund deals, how to analyze deals, how to develop a mindset. I spend time on mindset. That's why my students are so successful. How to grow your network, how to structure your real estate business. And the bonuses are just like, I don't sell anything there. It's 2 full days of training. I don't sell anything. And here's the bonuses. I mean, they're insane. You get my document library. You get my #1 best-selling book. It's right here. You get the PDF and the audio version of it. It's #1 bestseller. I've never even had a critical word about this book. It's all glowing. No haters at all, which is shocking because I've given away tens of thousands of copies. You get my deal finder system, which is a 12-module course. You get my no money down acquisition system, which is another presentation I did to capital raising, how to raise money. I go deep on raising money. You get my weekly planning process with goal setting, and you get my deal analyzer software. No excuses, guys, okay? So, again, you go to Rod's Bonuses, rodsbonuses.com, get your ticket, and I'm going to tell you, it's a Saturday and Sunday. On Monday, if you did not love it, I don't mean like it, I mean love it, I will give you your money back, okay? So, there you go. But no questions asked. It's never happened, but there's a first time for everything. But anyway, by the way, also, you've heard about me talk about my Warrior program. Okay, my Warriors, again, own somewhere in the neighborhood of 300,000 units that we know of. We're counting, and we're over 270,000. I know there's a ton we don't know about. Tons of senior housing, tons of student housing, tons of industrial flex space, mixed use. I mean, you name it, every asset class, mobile home parks, every asset class. By the way, I teach all of those as well in the Warrior program. If you're interested in applying to my coaching program, text the word crush to 72345. That's how you apply, okay? And we check you out, you check us out, and if it's a fit, you're gonna love it. And so anyway, just remember, guys, that in real estate, you're basically, when you buy multifamily, you're making sure that your descendants have options and opportunities and financial freedom. And it's not just about the income today. You're creating freedom and stability and opportunity for generations. Real estate gives your heirs tangible, stable assets instead of stocks or Bitcoin. We won't even talk about what happened with Bitcoin, which is so volatile, right? So you don't just pass down an asset. You're showing your heirs wealth creation. You're teaching them about wealth creation. You're teaching future generations how to manage their money, how to manage assets and understand finances and grow wealth responsibly. So, that's why we love this business. Listen, I hope you got some value today. I'll take some questions. If you've got some questions, I'm happy to take some. Otherwise, I think I'm going to call it. Okay. How do you get a hard copy of the book? If you go to Rod's Links, Bird, you pay like $6-7 for the shipping. And trust me, people are like, oh, you make money on the shipping. No, it cost me $30 to send you the book. My hope is that you'll look into some of my other stuff. But go to Rod's Links, go to the free books, and you can get the physical copy if you want to have the actual, if you want us to send this to you. Okay. Patrick, just reach out to me on the bonuses. Okay, buddy? Patrick Meek. Okay, Mark, we'll see you at the boot camp, brother. And by the way, if you're coming to the boot camp, start listening to my podcast. If you go to rodspodcast.com or Rod's Links, it's there too. Rod's Links, let me write that down. rodslinks.com. Jesus, if I could learn to write. rodslinks.com. There's my podcast. Link is there with all the different ways you can listen to it or watch it. My goal setting workshops there, even if you don't do my boot camp. We're going to do the goal setting at the boot camp. It's the most important thing you can do. Candidly, even more important than what I teach, because how do you get anything if you don't know what it is? But it's there as well. Rod's Links, it's got a free book section, tons of incredible resources there, my podcast link. But if you come into the boot camp, start listening to the podcast, because getting up to speed as fast as possible right now is super important, okay? Because the deals are here. So you want to, the more you hear this stuff, repetition is the mother of skill, the faster you'll get up to speed. But again, if you come and you didn't love it, I'll give you a freaking $47 back, and you can keep the bonuses for that matter. But all right, guys. Well, listen, I think I'm going to call it. Let's see. Thanks, Rod. Great 2 hours invested. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate you, brother. All right. Well, listen, thanks, guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Love you. And I hope I see you here just in 2 or 3 weeks at my boot camp. Take care. See you later. I don't know how to close this out here. I'll let you do it. Anyway, guys, have a fantastic weekend.